I am so excited to talk about this topic. This is exactly what I do for a living. I'm a project manager. I'm not really a project manager. I started as a project manager. Now I'm a software team manager and a scrum master and an agile. There's a lot of things I do at my work. We will get to my whole journey, but for now, let's stick to how to get into management role, or really how to get into project management role without any experience. But before we start talking about that, I want to know, raise your hand. Well, you can't really, if you do, then I won't know. So comment below if you are in one of this category. You happen to join an engineering field because your parents told you or forced you into. Two, because you did not score really great in 12th or diploma and ended up majburi, like because you had no choice and you had to go into that field. Or three, you chose it because you thought that you liked this field, and then when you started doing it, you realize that you don't like that. I am in one of those categories, and I want to know if you are also in one of those categories. And if you are, then it will make me feel better and might also make you feel better that I'm also in one of those categories. Okay, so what we are going to do is, this is a super big topic to cover. So I'm going to break this into smaller chunk, and each video will lead up to the next video. So you have to watch the entire series. If you watch second part and don't watch the first part, it will not make sense. So the first part, which is this one, we are going to talk about what exactly does project manager do, what are the skill set required to be a project manager, and start and end of a project cycle, and then what skill set you have to have or you need to develop. And then second video we'll talk about my journey, how I went from no project management experience from core computer science to getting a full-time project management job. I actually had a four management position before I graduated, so I'll talk about that as well. And then in the final video of this series, we will talk about maybe not even final. I don't know what we will come up with, but in the next part, next part we will talk about what are the interviews, how does the interview look like, how do you apply for this kind of job position. So this is super fun. I'm so excited about this, and maybe I will also bring a recruiter to talk about how they look at project management application and all of that. So stay tuned. Okay, so let's start with very basic. What does project manager do? What's the start, end of the project, skill set, and all of that? So the first thing we need to do is get an example of a project, and I have a very good example. When you were a kid, did you ever organize the birthday party? It's very common. I'm pretty sure you did. If you did not, did you ever organize a college event or like a building event or Ganesh festival or Navratri or Diwali? Anything? Did you organize like an event in your life? And if you did, then this example will make sense to you. Okay, so let's start with a birthday party. Let's say your best friend's parents told you that, can you organize the birthday party for my kid? So technically, your best friend's parents are your client in a software world. So you are the organizer of birthday party, but in our world, you are the project manager. Got it? Okay, so you are like super excited. You start asking question to the parents that, okay, what do you want in menu? Where is that going to be, in the home, or is it going to be separate venue? Do you want DJ? How many people? You start asking so many questions to them, which is what we call it in our project management is requirement gathering, requirement analysis. Basically what you're doing is getting requirements of the client. So that's makes sense, getting requirements from what's the scope of this project. Once you understand the whole scope of the party, they tell you that, okay, we want party outside, we don't want it in the home, there's going to be 50 guests, we definitely want DJ, and here's the budget of the project. So you understand the scope of the project. Once you understand the scope, you go into planning mode where you start delegating work. You have your own team. You kind of start telling, hey, you are the organizer of DJ, you are responsible for food, you are responsible for venue, you are responsible for guest list, and you kind of manage all of them. So that's what project manager does. They delegate work and they kind of oversee everything. They are responsible for coordinating what is making sure everyone does their own thing. So similarly, in our corporate world or software world, you will also get a team, and you will have designer, developer, tester, prod, etc., stakeholders and all of them. Then you start planning for the timeline. By this date you should order food, by this time you should have your DJ fixed, by this time you also manage the budget. You have to make sure that you don't go over budget, because you're not going to put outside your pocket. You have, if they told you the party is going to cost you 5,000 rupees, so you have to make sure everything gets done in 5,000 rupees. Then you plan for plan B, which is your backup plan. If things go wrong, then this is what you're going to do. In project management world, it's called risk mitigation plan. Basically, this is a risk. Like, if DJ doesn't show up, then what are you going to do? You probably will create a playlist, music playlist, download the songs and have Bluetooth speakers so they can play from that speaker. Or you invited 50 people and there might be 75 people at the party because somebody got their parents, somebody got their friends. So that might happen. So you just have to make sure that there's enough food for all of them. So you tell your restaurants ahead of time that there might be possibility that you might get more guests. And those kind of planning, we would call it plan B or backup plan. In project management, we call it risk mitigation plan. It's very important. You have to have a risk mitigation plan. Similarly, in our corporate world, you get a timeline, you get money, you get resources, all of that. So the planning is done. You go into an execution mode. And basically, execution mode is where your team members or you kind of start executing things which you plan, where you start calling restaurants, you start calling different venue, different vendors, different DJ, food items, menus, stuff like that. You start inviting people. So that's kind of an execution. And similarly, in software world, people start working towards the software, they start testing it. So that's called execution. Now, execution in this birthday party will also include the actual birthday party. The day of birthday party, you are making sure that everything is going smooth. So you are coordinating, like if the food is enough, if the guest has everything they need, if the DJ volume, lights and cake is there on the time, and things like that. So you basically are overviewing or making sure that everyone does what they're supposed to do. And as an organizer or a project manager, you also do something amazing, which is called resolving any blockers or showstoppers. Now, what does that mean in our birthday language and then software language? Let me explain you. Showstoppers or blockers are something like, because of this reason you cannot execute this plan. If DJ doesn't show up, then there can be no music, or the cake doesn't get delivered on time, then you can't celebrate the birthday without cake. Those are showstopper. Like, without these things, the birthday won't be happening. So you are like resolving the blockers, you are resolving any showstoppers. So in our software world, for example, if the website was supposed to go live and something happened to break, then you make sure that at least there should be a login page. So without login page, people can't log in. So that's a showstopper. The website cannot be launched. So that's the things you kind of work, you coordinate with your team. It's just a very simple language. So you kind of coordinate and then you resolve those blockers. Okay, now the party is done. You enjoyed the party. After the party, you and your friends who organized the party, you kind of discuss, this went well, we could have done that better, or we could have done this way, next time we should do this, next time we should not order from that food, we should order cake from some. So you kind of discuss the pros and cons, like what went well, what did not go well, and you kind of have that list in your head. In project management, that's called retrospective or lessons learned. So you kind of make the list and make sure when you get next birthday party assigned, you don't make those mistakes. Or if someone calls you and is like, hey, I'm trying to organize a birthday party, then those are the things you tell them, that do not go to that DJ or do not go to that person for the cake whatsoever. So that's basically a start to end. Like, you gather requirement, plan, execute, retrospective. Obviously there are more steps, but that's basically what the project management is, and that is typically a waterfall model. There are many companies in United States still follow waterfall model. When I started in my company, we used to do waterfall. Now we moved completely from waterfall to agile, which is rapid development, iteration, scrum. There are many names and we will get into those details later on. But overall, in general, this is what project manager does. There are four main skills. The first one is organization, like super organized and a big vision. Basically, you have to organize every single thing and make sure things go well. You plan for every single thing, you are super detail oriented, and you have a big vision to know who's working on what can this impact to that person and that person to this impact. So that is the number one skill. Two, you are a people person, you understand people. People is super important to you as a project manager. You cannot give someone who is super shy to invite guests, like you, that doesn't work, right? So that's kind of you understanding people and their strength. Then you are super good at communication and coordination skill. If things doesn't get translated, if there's problem in communication, if two people are not talking in your team, you make sure you resolve that. You coordinate activities if someone is not able to get through that, so you let your team focus on that and you go and coordinate with the other people to make sure they get what they need. That, and then the final thing is you are super well organized with process. You have to understand what process the company follows and you follow that process. And the most important skill is to get work done. Like basically you have to make sure work gets done by your team. So if project fails, then it's because of you. And this is a big pro advice to you if you're a project manager or want to become a project manager. Don't ever blame your team for failure of a project. It's usually you who did not manage well. Don't start blaming that because of that person, things didn't go well. I planned it well, but that person did not do it well. So don't really do that because your team will lose faith in you. So instead, just take the blame, accept the failure and accept the mistakes, and then improve in the next project. So that's my biggest advice. And obviously if you win the project or if the project is successful, give super credits to your team, full credit to your team, that because of their work the project was able to be successful. Okay, so now the big question is that do I need to know technical skills, technical knowledge? No, you don't really need to understand technology, technical skills. If you do know them, that's very good. It's a big advantage. That's what happened with me. I knew technology, so it added to my advantage. But if you don't know, then it's totally fine. You don't have to know all the technical details of it. You have to understand the process, you have to understand people, and then how to make sure the work gets done, and communication skills. Those are the things you need to work on. I'm going to stop here. I wanted to give you the context of a project manager, roles, skills, duties. But again, remember there are many different types of project manager. There is a technical project manager, IT project coordinator, IT project manager, just general project manager, Scrum Master, Agile project manager. So we'll get to all of this later, but for now, overall, you understood the skill set. So go back and do some introspection. Ask yourself, do you have any of this skill set? Or at least do you enjoy doing planning, scheduling, and coordinating, communicating, any of this, team building, all of this? So you need to have this skill set to be a project manager, to get into management position, because that's what you will do. You will spend endless amount of time in meetings and understanding the requirements and coordinating the efforts, making sure your team to get all the answers they want, making sure they get the work done, reporting back to the manager. So there's a lot of coordination. So do you really enjoy all of this? And if you do, then next video is going to be awesome, because in next video I'll talk about how I went from computer science, core programming, computer science student to a project manager with no project management experience, and how I developed all my profile and skill set to get 4 job offers before I graduated. I like to boast that, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, come back in the next video and we'll talk more in detail, and obviously we'll talk so much more in detail about all the different roles also. Until our next one, keep smiling and keep hustling.